All right, welcome everybody. This is Brit-Simone with Organic Living Diva. So glad you could join us again, and I'm happy and super excited to be interviewing a very good new friend of mine in the yoga world now. I had the pleasure of recently going to something different of a yoga class than what I'm used to. I'm used to my hot yoga classes, and I went to a mommy-daughter yoga class because being a mom now, I'm looking at different things that we can do with our little ones. And Kelsy is a yoga teacher and also had her two daughters there at class. So that was really fun to experience a yoga class with lots of little people running around. But Kelsy does much, much more than that particular kind of class, has been an instructor for quite some time. And I wanted Kelsy to jump on today and share her story of how she got started with yoga and what inspired her. And we've got some other treats along the way of things that she's done that she'll share with us. So without further ado, Kelsy Livic, we're here up in the Northwest, but you're also going to be moving soon, and that's another exciting aspect. So I'm glad that we've had this face-to-face contact here in the Northwest before you're gone. But please do jump in and share with us a little bit about how you got started in yoga and what you're doing right now with yoga.
Yeah, well, thank you for interviewing me, and likewise, I'm really glad to have met you. You were, I could tell that you had done yoga before when you took my class, so that was really fun. So I originally got started in yoga by flipping through some of my mom's old books. She took yoga in college, and I think that was her first introduction to yoga. And then I found some asanas or poses that I thought looked challenging and fun, so I would kind of explore those poses. But I didn't really start to practice consistently until I got a yoga DVD. I think it was by Gayam.
Okay.
And I started to do that maybe 2 or 3 times a week for an hour long. And my sisters at the time sort of made fun of me because it wasn't something that was really popular at the time. But I liked the way it made me feel. And my body became more toned as a teenager. I think you're already sort of fit, but I felt like I did some work afterwards. And this is after already doing a lot of sports. I was in ballet and I did that every day of the week. But the yoga just added a little bit more flexibility and strength.
Very cool. And as a teenager, that's interesting because not always do kids gravitate towards yoga or have the exposure to yoga. So it is wonderful to see, especially now that you're a parent and that you've also brought this into your kids' world. And I see on Facebook, because we're friends on Facebook, all the things that you're doing right now with your daughters doing all these cute little poses and teaching your network of friends and family members on what they can share for themselves and also with their children. So from your teenage years, where did you go from there?
From there, I think I didn't practice as regularly as I did once I got into college. So it was just maybe I dwindled down. So I was really excited about it when I was 12 or 13 and I was first introduced. And then it kind of dwindled down as I got more and more involved in activities like, orchestra, all the things that you get involved in when you're in high school. But then in college, I picked it up again.
Okay.
And I started to do the classes at studios. And then also it was offered at the gym that I belonged to, and then I would take the elective classes in college. But what really got me going on it was that I decided that I wanted to be an instructor. So I had kept it as a personal practice for years, but I knew it was something that I was really passionate about, but never made the time to do on a more professional basis until a few years ago. And that was after I had my first, I think I actually had both kids already. So I had a 6-month-old, that was my youngest. And then the older one was, I think, 2.5 at the time, or 3.
Okay.
And so I did a month-long yoga teacher training program at an Iyengar studio in Seattle.
Okay.
And I had, my in-laws came, and they're amazing because they were willing to help watch the girls during the day when my husband was at work. For an entire month, and I was gone doing the training from 9 o'clock in the morning until maybe 9 or 10 at night.
Wow.
And I was pumping, so I was nursing, so I was pumping every few hours in a storage closet in between
and then
the
storing
yoga.
the milk somewhere,
Yeah, in the refrigerator. So I had to explain right when I entered the teaching program what this was, why there were little baby bottles in the fridge.
That's great that you were able to do it, though. It
Yeah.
takes a village.
Yeah, exactly.
Support.
So it was a very intense time of training, but it was well worth it because I started my business just a couple months after that.
That's fantastic. Juggling so many things as a new mom and even entering the world of a new business, which is also so physically active on top of that. It's not just working at a desk job, but you're actually physically changing, you're transforming your body too.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing for the kids. They're seeing that, and they're also getting healthy milk, so that's good.
Yeah.
So you're wanting to dive into this. Is this because of, now because now that I'm a new mom too, it's like my whole world has changed. My career has changed. Well, now my career is taking care of Skylar right now because she's only 2 years old. But I definitely see that there's a shift in your world or a redirection. So is this something that you're planning on doing more so as the kids are growing up and this is going to be your main career?
Yeah, so I guess I got lucky in that regard because my passion has actually turned into my career, and it just so happens that that career affords me the luxury of being able to stay at home to help, to raise my kids. But also I can work when my husband's at home, so I can work in the evenings or I work on the weekends. And now we've just got the girls involved with preschool, so just 3 times a week, but then I can teach during those hours as well. So in that way it's really worked out.
That's a good balance. It sounds like because you're also creating your own plans throughout the day, so you can schedule and kind of make it all work, but you still have that freedom where if the kids need you, you're there.
Yeah.
That's awesome, because it's a struggle. Now that I know every day more and more, my husband and I are always balancing things out of, it's a whole new world with creating a family and supporting a family. So it's a lot to juggle, and to be able to build a business at the same time is fantastic. So the next step was, I noticed on Facebook recently that you were gone. You were in another country, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how is she doing this with 2 little ones? So share with us where you went, what you were doing, why you were doing it, and how the heck you managed to do that. Who is your support team that made it all happen? Because this is very special for yoga.
Yeah, so I originally went to I was looking into the yoga teaching programs over in Bellevue, Washington, and then sort of dreaming about the ones over in India, because I knew it covered a broader range of subjects, things that were important to me, but I felt like I couldn't really get in this area. And those subjects would be pranayama, which is breath control. It's said that our prana, or in China it's known as qi, it's our life force energy, is accessed through our breath. So if you can control the breath, you can control that life force energy. So, but we don't really focus a whole lot on that in the West. You focus more on the asanas or the yoga poses. So it was the pranayama, the meditation, the mudras, the mantras, Ayurvedic medicine, which is, supplementing with herbs and focusing more on your diet. And then there were a number of other things that were part of the program in India that I felt like you couldn't get in the West. So when I was comparing the 2 programs and comparing the prices, eventually it just made more sense to go directly to the source for this teacher training. So I approached my husband and asked if he'd be willing to watch the girls for, actually the program was 6 weeks, and I ended up staying for 2 weeks longer in order to do some travel while I was there. But
awesome.
He made it work. So he was able to work from home. He's in the tech industry, so that was an option as long as he had his computer with him. And then he ended up taking our girls with him to Maui to get some help from his parents. So
that's a good place for parents to be staying.
So again, so again, I got lucky with my amazing in-laws, and they helped to watch the girls while he was working and had meetings. Of course, my husband was really, really busy because he was also watching the girls and working, and then putting in extra hours after they fell asleep. But I got lucky and was able to do the program that way.
It's a huge gift. 'Cause it's a struggle for anybody to be managing, as we know, as full-time moms, of being there for our kids all the time, and then an awesome husband jumping in, full days of work, and then
Thank
also
you,
full.
honey.
I know, thank you, honey. That's awesome. That's so wonderful that you were able to balance that out with your support team, of course, and go to India for 2 months. My goodness! So you now have a whole new realm of understanding of yoga, and as a teacher, so many gifts that you can offer other people. What, from your 2 months being there, and I'm sure that there's a lot of things that you'd want to touch upon, but just give me a couple pointers to share with other people that are yoga students, not necessarily yoga teachers, but what's a good takeaway of what you think is good to focus on, or what yoga can really offer people who are either doing it now and want to go deeper, or have never really done it, don't know what it's all about. They just think, oh, I'm not as flexible as everybody else. Well, I always tell people that's not what it's about. What pearls of wisdom are you coming back with?
So one thing that really stood out to me, and there were a lot of things that I learned during my time there, but I think the key to progressing in your practice is just to practice consistently and also in a pleasant way. So if you're going to the point where you're just totally maxed out with your stretches, it's going to take you a few days to recover. And during that time, your muscles have probably contracted even more. It's going to be even harder to stretch that next time.
Okay.
So if you're just doing, say there's an asana, a pose that really stands out to you, if you just focus on that one pose for 5 minutes before you go to bed, but you're doing that every single night for a few weeks, you're going to become better at that asana. If you want to do an entire hour-long practice and that feels good for you, you can do that too. Just don't do more than you can handle, and just know your own limits. Don't be vain. This is where I think it helps to be humble and just know your level and just practice to your level. Yeah. And then naturally you'll progress. I watched a student who had only done yoga 2 or 3 times in his life prior to going to this ashram that I went to in Rishikesh, and with almost no flexibility to begin with, who eventually was able to, he moved down a foot, doing the splits. He was able to reach over.
Deep.
Yeah, he was impressed when he was able to just touch his toes after this 4-week, he only did the 4-week program. And then eventually by the end of it, he was able to stand on his head for the first time in his life. So it's just about doing it consistently.
And that goes for anything in life, doesn't it? Consistency is the key to so many things in order for us to get better at what we're doing, whether it's with our health or our career, but just not giving up. And I like what you said about getting the vanity out of the way. Yes, we often do things like yoga because we want to transform something on the outside and make it look a little bit different. Myself, I find the journey of yoga is deeper than that, though, and it's so important to bring that mind, body, spirit connection, that you are there to heal yourself from within. And if you do it consistently, and if you give yourself the space to grow and learn, and not judge yourself in the mirror, that everything will come in time, but just don't give up, right?
Yep, exactly.
So now that you're back, what kind of classes do you teach? Where do you teach? Where are you? I know you're moving, so this is up in the air. But for your followers, you never know. Maybe you can start doing some online yoga classes for people. But where are you off to now, and what do you plan on doing with your yoga?
So I, for my first teacher training, did an Iyengar yoga teacher training, and then for the second, when I went to India, it was based on ancient Hatha yoga. But once you become certified as a yoga teacher through Yoga Alliance, which is just it's a national standard for yoga teachers, you don't have to sign up through Yoga Alliance to be a yoga teacher, but it does help you so that people know that you're adhering to certain standards, and the training that you had adhered to that as well. But once you have that training, you can start to develop your own practice. So even though I had Iyengar yoga teacher training and Hatha yoga teacher training, I now teach primarily vinyasa because it's what people sort of gravitate to. It's what I like. I like moving from one pose to the other seamlessly. But so I also I've turned my my teaching into, I've had a few different branches. So I teach over a gym called the Pro Sports Club. I also teach corporate yoga. So I'll go into a space like a real estate office during their lunch break and then teach an hour-long yoga class and then bringing everything with me.
That's great.
Yeah, and then I have taught a few online classes, and actually I have some clients here that wanted to continue their practice. So when we move to Austin, I'll be doing some online training as well.
That's great. Well, we must figure out how to get your website and how people can tune into that and enjoy what you have to offer. So a takeaway with yoga, if somebody's looking at yoga and trying to figure out if it's something for them, what would you say to them? You know, because I've had friends going, oh my God, I can't, you know, because I've been doing yoga for many years. I'm also naturally flexible. So I always tell people, don't look at what I'm doing, understand the philosophy of this has been, 10 plus years in the making. I do it as a practice. I'm really dedicated to what I do, and I'm kind of crazy about it. So I go all in.
Yeah.
So I let people know, I said, don't judge the yoga by what I can do, but come and join a class and be open to experiencing it without judgment, because I find a lot of people going back to that thing of, oh, I'm not flexible enough. I'm like, you got to just get started somewhere.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody new who's hesitant or not sure if they want to get into yoga, and to help explain, because you said vinyasa and the hatha, and kind of give people a lowdown of what is out there.
Yeah. Okay. So just to address your question about what is what and what's out there, Iyengar yoga uses a lot of props. It was developed by a yoga guru based in Pune, India, which his name is BKS Iyengar, and so he was recovering from a whole slew of ailments, and he found that by using blocks, by using straps, he could reach those poses and still reap the benefits, even though he didn't have natural flexibility at first.
Okay.
So that's what Iyengar yoga is. Hatha yoga is where you sustain the asanas for a long period of time, for a few minutes, and then you'll move from one pose to another and focus on those different asanas that will help you to finally get into Shavasana, but without moving in a flow. So that means that you could be you're doing like a warrior pose, and you have your arms out and your leg is bent, but you're not taking your arm and just bringing it over your head and then going straight into like an angled pose. You could be doing something that's totally different right after you've done that first pose, your warrior. But with vinyasa, you're moving from one pose to the other in a flow. So that's why some people call it vinyasa flow. So it's all the hatha poses, but you're just doing it so that the poses sort of flow one into the other. And then Ashtanga Vinyasa is based on the teachings by a yoga guru called Pattabhi Joy, and he's based in Mysore, India. Now, both of Iyengar's families and Pattabhi Joy's families are running their respective schools in those same cities. So if you're interested in following that lineage of yoga, you can go directly there and take it from the source. But Ashtanga Vinyasa is based on a set series. So you have a primary series for when you're first getting into the series. Then you have secondary series for the more intermediate practitioner, and then for advanced students you can keep going. So those are what's out there. Yeah,
crazy cool, awesome postures, right?
Yeah. And then to address the question that you asked about how I would approach a new student, someone who's interested but fearful of not being the perfect
right
student,
fit, right?
Yeah. I would say that even doing a pose to the point where you feel a stretch is going to give you some benefits. So you don't have to be touching your head down to your thigh like you see some of the more advanced students doing, or the students who have been doing it for a long period of time. If you're feeling the work, that's all you're trying to do. You're trying to eliminate those chronic aches and pains. through your practice, and you do that just by going to your limit.
Yeah.
And then if you're able to do that, then you can reap the benefits in Shavasana, or the very end pose that we do, which is called the corpse pose for a reason. We just look like we're sleeping on our backs, like
we're
or
just
a dead
tired
person.
and wiped out
Yeah.
and feeling fabulous.
But you work your body enough to where you get rid of all those things that are bothering you physically, and then you can really be inside your body and experience. That's where they say you have access to your soul. You really feel like you're there, you're present.
Yes, yeah, having that connection with being in the moment, because we are so busy in life and we are so distracted, and whether you're a parent or not, there's so much going on, there's so much busyness. But I find that with I go to the 90-minute hot hatha yoga, so that's when you would hold a position for a minute or two, and then you have either a standing savasana where you rest and you really concentrate on your breathing, and then you go into the next pose. And I know that really helps to center and ground me. And I love that I'm doing this, mindful meditation throughout the whole process, which you do in any yoga class. You tune in to the instructor's voice, and they take you on a journey. And if you really connect with that, then you also connect with yourself, because you realize you're letting everything else go. You let the busyness go, and you're just listening to the voice, concentrating on your breath. And it's powerful, the transformation that you can go through. And then you realize you're not really focusing on, always doing a workout. You're actually working, metaphysically down to the core, the molecular structure of your body. And it is, it's an awakening. It really can be revitalizing. Often I find that I sleep less after going to yoga that particular day. And if you do it consistently, you see the transformation over time, and it does translate into the rest of your life.
Yeah.
When you can focus on your breath and calm your mind in your class, that also translates to the busyness outside in the rest of the world. When something comes at you, how you respond, you might find that over time you're responding to something versus reacting, and you can find yourself calming down, and things don't bother you as much as they used to. Plus, you're looking fabulous on the outside, and you've also done such a gift on the inside by building your strength and building your health and wellness, flushing out toxins. And the benefits of yoga go on and on and on. It's quite fascinating what you can accomplish holistically in your life with yoga. So with that, do you have anything else that you'd like to add, Kelsy?
I think you wrapped it up pretty well. Yeah, thank you.
Well, thanks so much for being here with us today. I'm so glad we got this moment to do an interview before
Likewise.
You're off to Austin, and I will be missing your yoga classes. But
online.
Online, right? We'll figure out how to do it online, and we'll figure out how to meet somewhere out there in the world. So thank you so much for your time, and happy travels to you and your family.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys for joining in. Take care. This is Brit-Simone with Organic Living Diva.